From television series like Breaking Bad to Oscar contenders like The Wolf of Wall Street, Hollywood, and by extension the American public, seems to have a fascination with stories about people who sidestep, if not outright break the law. Some people could argue that the appeal is that we like to see how these people rise to the top before they fall from their ivory towers, while others might argue that the appeal comes from the simple idiom that truth is often stranger than fiction. As such, with films that are based on a true story, you always have to take that with a grain of salt. War Dogs is the story of two arms dealers in their 20s who managed to snag a multi-million-dollar contract from the Pentagon. And looking at how the film's being marketed, it's pretty clear that they're trying to rein in the same crowd that would flock to Wolf of Wall Street, except they're actually being smart about it and releasing it in the summer and not trying to release it on Christmas Day. However, I think this film is a little bit more reined in when compared to Wolf of Wall Street, because a lot of the humor, a lot of the comedy, and a lot of the more ridiculous situations aren't from places of extravagance, but just from the fact that, oh crap, this is actually happening, especially when you view it through the lens of our main character. Now I say our main character because we primarily focus on one character throughout the entire film, David Packouz, played by Miles Teller. From the get-go, he's introduced to us as a put-upon-everyman who's working a job he hates, just barely scraping by, pretty much typical average Joe who is just not really sure what he wants to do with his life, until a chance encounter puts him on the path to riches. It's a classic story about a rise to fortune that is undone by the hubris of the key characters involved, and is presented in a style more akin to a chapter book if you've seen stuff like Pulp Fiction, which for a film that's kind of this dense and about a topic that would fly over most people's heads, it really helped the pacings. However, I feel they should have found a better way to transition from chapter to chapter, aside from having the key lines of dialogue serving as the title cards. I understand that without them, it would have made those lines sound a little bit cliche, but with them, it just feels like unnecessary lampshade hanging. As for the film's visual style, there's nothing that really stands out since this film is a comedy and not really a drama, and as such, a lot of the focus is more on the writing and the actor's ability to perform, upon which they deliver in spades. Now, I'll be honest, it is a little bit weird seeing Jonah Hill playing the crazy, out-of-control eccentric, but he actually happens to have that nice layer of crazy necessary to pull this off, and make the character at least somewhat enjoyable to watch. As for Miles Teller, yeah, he's playing the everyman and doesn't necessarily give an actor a lot to work with, but at the very least, his character was relatable, which is especially important for a story that is about a character who's acting solely for their own benefit. Overall, this is a film where its biggest strengths are the writing and the acting. If you liked Wolf of Wall Street, you'll probably get some enjoyment out of this film. As for the factuality of the events, well, the thing you have to remember is that films are out to entertain first, educate second, so any of the events you see in this film you have to take with a grain of salt. On its own, the film works really well as a comedy that just happens to be based on actual events. With the well-written, well-acted characters, it makes the absurd journey all that more entertaining. If you do want to see it for yourself in theaters, I would recommend an early afternoon matinee as a nice diversion from the dumping ground that is usually the end of the summer movie season. All of that said, War Dogs gets a 4.5 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time.